Buddy, I guess I'm starting the recording now. Hope you can all hear me well. So I want to welcome you all to the Business Analyst demo session. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, I just want to present my screen.
Sure, nothing as of now.
Okay, all right. Let me Windows. I'm going to do the entire screen. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen right now.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So the agenda here is basically, it's basically for you to kind of have like an overall idea of how to become a business analyst using both waterfall and agile methodologies. There is so much that you can, do in terms of just within waterfall methodology, and within agile also has been like continuously evolving. Okay, so if you just look at how a business analyst role was 20 years ago, there was not a role called as business analyst like 20 years ago. So say for example, if you're just going to take a e-commerce website like amazon.com, right? The business user, basically the business team, which is developing those screens or the user navigation part of Amazon.com, would give would just conceive basically an idea, and the idea would be communicated to the technical unit, right? They would just spell out the requirements, saying that, hey, you know what, I want the e-commerce site to have certain menu items, and when I click on that particular item, I want the screen to appear, and then with one click I should be able to add those items into my cart, and I should be able to check out, and I should be able to get a confirmation or an confirmation number or my order number. So this could be like a flow, right, of how an end-to-end sale can happen in a e-commerce website. So like I said, like 20 years ago, when there was no business analyst role, what would happen is the business owner is somebody who would have sponsored the idea, right? Who's a sponsor, who's going to pay for that particular feature or for that particular module, right? So when they come in and give their idea to the technical people who are basically programmers or architects who look at that idea, they may understand it, but they are technical people, right? They know how to code. Their expertise is not documentation. That expertise may not be is just to understand from a business user's perspective. So there was a huge gap between. So what happens is the technical team might understand it a certain way. Probably the technical team would have like a technical lead, who would just go to these meetings, understand the requirement, and they would just say, okay, I understood what you want, come back, and then the programmers would just start cracking the codes, and and 6 months down the lane, when the product or when the module is ready, when it is actually demoed to the business may say, hey, this is not what I wanted. I wanted a certain feature. This is the feature that I want. So what happens is there's a huge gap in communication, right? So that is when what happened was documentation became like very important in these projects, because there was there's the projects, the IT projects started to realize the importance of the role, like a bridge or a liaison role between business and technical unit, right? So what happened is they started introducing a business analyst role. It was not called as business analyst 20-25 years ago. They would be more like coordinators or documentation experts. They would just sit in the meetings when IT and business talks. They would just take the meeting minutes, and they would document the user requirements, help documenting user requirements. And then if there is any clarification needed, right? If IT team says, okay, you know what color did they say they wanted the menu item to be in? or what font did they want that to be in, and how should this, when they click, what should be the experience, the user experience, so on and so forth, the functionality of it, right? So when teams mm, had, instead of just assuming or going back to their notes, they would just ask this liaison or the coordinator to go and check with the business, set up a meeting, run with them, like, the what was discussed in the meeting, and get clarification. So that's how it was, and the role actually evolved over the years. Now, most of the projects, run, the IT projects, mostly, like, smaller to bigger projects, they need a business analyst in between. First of all, documentation, like IT people don't want to do documentation. Business analyst, most of the, I would say 60 to 70% of their role is documentation, and making sure that they're documenting the requirement, making sure, getting clarification from business that, okay, is this what you need? Is this a feature that you want to develop? And there are certain formats in which those documents are written. There are many documents. There are many. They're called deliverables. Okay, in a business, in an IT world, it's called deliverables. And depending upon what methodology you're going to be working in, your deliverables could be different. Okay, so it's basically, if you're going to work in waterfall is nothing but, imagine a waterfall, right? Waterfall is basically, imagine there are steps, and then if you just pour water on the step, the water is going to flow down one step at a time, right? So just like that, in waterfall methodology, you will actually do one phase. Like, you will first execute deliverables, you will first execute the tasks in one phase, finish all the tasks, deliverables plan, and then move on to the next phase. There are 5 phases. It could be a little bit too much for you guys, but just to let you guys know, there are 5 phases in a project, right? So, and you will have, like, initiate and plan. Then you will have, you will have design and build. Then you will have test and install. Then you have run and operate. Then you'll have the operational phase, right? So you have those phases cleanly, like, written down, and every phase has its own deliverables. You have to finish your deliverables in that initiate and plan phase, and then move on to the next phases. In agile methodology, it's a little bit different, right? Agile is basically, the project is, it's nothing but waterfall methodology in short span of time. So agile methodology, typically, the projects run for 2 to 3 weeks, that's all. And then requirements are written, then development is done, testing is done, and then they go back. So that's basically, we'll get more into it as we go to that step. But so there are 2 different types of methodologies, is what I said. So I think I kind of covered everything. I'm not going by step and what has been explained. Yeah, so like it's said here, I have project management, program management experience. I have a lot of experience in managing projects, IT projects, and working in quality assurance area as well. The role of a business analyst is very important. It's basically bridging, liaisoning between business and IT. That's basically the role of a business analyst. Skills of a good business analyst. So from what I have mentioned, the skills of a good business analyst is, you have to be an active listener, you have to be a good communicator, you should have good written communications, right? So because when business comes to you with with a requirement, you should be able to document the requirement, and you should be able to speak up. You should be able to clarify if the requirement is, it's not just, they say, and then you just write it down and then take it to your IT team, right? As you grow in your role, you would be able to actually add value by just saying, hey, I don't think doing this is going to be a good step. Why don't we do like this, right? Give them alternative suggestions, advising the business, right? That also is a role of a business analyst. I'm not saying immediately as you join as a starter, you will be able to give all the suggestions. As you actually go through multiple projects, you would have that confidence. You would know what will work and what will not work, right? Then you will be able to go on. You will be in an advisory role where you just say, okay, knowing the business, this is the best course of, why don't we do like this? and suggest them different options, and the business would be able to, and they would appreciate the role of a business analyst. And in many projects, we have seen that the business analyst kind of like takes a lead role in basically making sure that the project runs smoothly, right from the phase two, in the execution, and then once the system goes live, even during run and operate phase, the business analyst kind of takes like an upper hand, and they make sure that everybody is situated and everybody has work to do, and they make sure that the requirements are well understood by everybody, and they make sure that it's tested well and it's delivered to the client as per their expectation. So that's basically the role. You need to be a skill of a, you don't really need to have any IT skills. That's the beauty of this role, right? You don't have to have any big programming skills. If you have, like, for example, Darshana has like a Salesforce knowledge, you have like a Microsoft knowledge, well and good. You need to be able to use Microsoft products like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, because if you want to just share your screen, and if you're going to document something, you should be able to, like, and instead of just explaining it in words, right, you type it down, or you just do like a process flow diagram, or you just put like a PowerPoint slide, right, and then show it to your customer. That speaks louder than just your words, right? So um, and you can get like immediate clarification. So yes, Microsoft knowledge is definitely going to be useful. Um, so why become a business analyst? You're going to look at the industry insights. Like I mentioned, 20 years ago, this was not like a defined role. There's not like a clear job description. Just somebody from the team would just emerge up to be a business analyst. They would take up that role to document. But it's also, think about this, like, you should understand the product very well, right? So say, for example, like Amazon.com, right? So when it was first emerging, I don't know how many of you know how it was in 1990s, or early 2000s, how that e-commerce site was. It was just bare bones, right? They had just had few menu items, and then the performance was very slow and all those things, right? So they didn't have like this one click buying option and all those, so it kind of emerged. So now, I would say 90%, 90 to even more than that, of IT projects do not run without a business analyst. That's a very crucial role to the success of any project. SDLC stands for System or Software Development Life Cycle. It's very important to understand the system development life cycle. Basically, it's a life cycle of how a system or a software is developed, right? We will just talk about different teams, what are their roles, and what is the role of a business analyst in various project phases, like from the initiation. Initially, what is going to be a business analyst role? And then during run and operate, how what role would a business analyst do? It's very important for you to understand this, because you may join a project between, like, when it is been in the initial blueprinting stage, or you may join when they have finished production, right? We have actually coded and tested and it's delivered, and you just have to do a support role. So it's important for you to understand in which project phase are you going in, so that you can ask for, or you can know what are the deliverables you need to ask, so that you can pick up from where the previous business analyst left off. And then we will go into the waterfall development methodology. Like I said, it's very important, because the interview questions may come on what is a waterfall methodology, what is a agile methodology. They are methodologies which I cannot go in a demo, but these are very important core concepts that you need to understand, and they are not just a methodology for business analysts, it's for the entire team, right? The developers, and the testers, everybody too should understand these methodologies. As a business analyst, you should have a good grip of this methodology. Basic concepts. The most important thing of, or most important work of a business analyst is they are going to be the keeper of requirements. And there are many types of requirements, and we will go into requirement is basically the need, right? The need of a customer is a requirement. The customer is hiring an IT team is because they have a need, they have a business need, right? They want to develop a particular capability or a functionality, and they are hiring this IT team to build that for them. And you as a business analyst is going to go there, understand the need, understand the business need of why this particular IT product is required, and you're going to document it. And that there are many templates available. We are going to go in depth into what a business requirement is, and what is a business rule, what is a functional requirement, what is a non-functional requirement. Functional requirement is basically a requirement which describes the functionality of a particular product, right? The requirement for a particular function. Like, for example, if it's a shopping cart, what is the functionality of a shopping cart? The customer or the user should be able to add a product from the site. The shopping cart should display how many products are added. Once you click on the shopping cart, what is the function it should do, right? You should be able to check out from that shopping cart. So that's a function. Non-functional requirements are, requirements that are not functional. Basically, like, when you click on that shopping cart, the page should load within like 1 second or less than like, half a second. And if particularly like, if the site crashes for some reason, the user logs on and the shopping cart should still display the last added item, something like that, which is not functional. But you should be you would have the other requirements which is not related to the functionality of a business requirement. And then the next is the project kickoff. Project kickoff is basically usually a project manager would be assigned to projects who would actually manage the entire like project. But if the projects are small, then typically business analysts also would act as a project manager. There will be no project manager. There will be just a business analyst who would actually manage the role, the projects. So what are required in a project kickoff, right? So what should be done during pre-project? And then RACI matrix is basically, as a project manager, you go in, and then, or a business analyst, you go into a project, and then you have this little matrix where you just define what is the role, who's responsible, who's accountable, who should be consulted, and who should be informed, right? RACI stands for those responsible, accountable, who should be consulted, who should be informed. A project stakeholder is basically nothing but everybody who's going to be directly or indirectly impacted by the outcome of the project is a project stakeholder, right? Somebody who's going to be impacted by a project. Those people needs to be consulted. They have to be invited for the project kickoff, and then you prepare a RACI matrix. So we'll go into the importance of a RACI matrix and how to prepare a RACI matrix, and we'll give you a template of a RACI matrix. And then the project kickoff meeting happens. And also it's very important for you to understand, you may join a project at any point in time. You can join a project midway, you can join a project, even before the scope out, or you can join at the end. So you have to understand what you should do as a business analyst if you join the project at any point of the project phase. And then this is the most important thing. The ones on the week one topics, the one on the top will not take more than a few hours. The most important thing, then we will deep dive into the basic responsibility of a business analyst. It's requirement gathering techniques. It's very important. There are many techniques. There are many assessment techniques to understand where are you and where are you going to go. It may be like sometimes, even the business stakeholders can change, right? People get hired, new people come into the company. They may not know what happened before, and they may actually pick up a project. And then you go into the project as a business analyst. You should be able to ask questions. You should be able to go refer to the previous documentation to see what happened before this particular, this project was kicked off. Was there any previously like rolled out products, and what was deficient in that, what are they trying to achieve in this new into this new feature or functionality that they're trying to develop. Do the gap analysis, right? There are many assessment techniques like gap analysis. Gap is basically you look at the current state as a state, and then you mark out the future state, like to be state. For example, you just look at Amazon.com just as an example. Like, in early 2000s, they did not have the shopping cart, or they did not have the one click checkout process, right? So at that point in time, if they're going to write a requirement, the requirement would be like, as is this currently, they have a three-step process to successfully check out a product. To be the future state is to have a one-click checkout. So we have templates for that, and we have some examples that we will go through. Then we'll do RCA, which is root cause analysis. We have like an exercise. We'll draw a fishbone diagram to understand the cause and the source and the cause analysis. SWOT is your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat analysis. There are many other analyses, but these are important for you when you go into a project. Requirement elicitation is basically, sometimes you could have like you would be hired in a project, and then you would be asked to pull the requirement out. Not every business owner or the business sponsor is going to be like outcoming and giving you all the requirements. Sometimes you have to go and elicit. You have to be able to go and understand what they need, and you should be able to go and suggest. So if you are put in that situation, you should be able to apply these techniques to go and get requirements, like SME interviews, job shadowing, surveying, doing a survey or preparing a questionnaire. JAD is joint application design sessions. It's important to understand what a JAD session stands for, because it's a very popular method of doing requirement elicitation, right? And then I think that's going to be a class exercise as well. Prototyping is basically you creating a mock-up, and if it's a product that you're going to build, it's very easy. There are many type of prototyping. Like you create a wireframe. Wireframe is, just as the name implies, you just create like a bare body, there are many wireframing softwares that is available. There is Balsamic is one of the software that is available. It's free. It comes with Confluence. I don't know if you've heard about Confluence. Is one of the Atlassian tools. We'll go into Balsamic. We'll draw some stick figures. And then there is storyboarding with PowerPoint, and then we'll do prototyping. Microsoft Visio is one of the product where you can actually draw a diagram, right? That's prototyping. And then we go to modeling techniques. These all will come in handy for you when you get into a job, like a context diagram, doing a use case diagram, doing a flow chart. Flow chart is basically, okay, what happens? A user comes in, logs on, so you just have a start, and then you say, okay, the user clicks onto this button, then he's going to navigate to the screen number 1, and then from there he's going to go and enter the information. He's going to do a search. So those are all the flow, the business flow. You should be able to draw it in a chart. That's a flow chart. And the data flow diagram is basically where the data flows from start to finish. Like you enter your information, right? Say you're creating a banking application. You start with you logging into the software, and then the data, that's the data captured there, and then you start a mortgage application or something like that, and then those are all the data. Like there's an application, you fill in the information, and then it takes you, based on the input that you give, it takes you to different paths. You should be able to draw that out. So that's a data flow diagram. And then you go into use case diagrams, and user story is nothing but user story is writing a story from a user's perspective. It's also a requirement in Agile methodology. Then you go into documentation, which is very, very important from a business analyst role. We'll give you some guidelines on how to write good requirements. What is the business requirement documentation? What is a functional requirement documentation? And what are the features? What should you look for in a good business requirement documentation? Like, it should have a scope, it should have an interface, it should have a user interface, it should have functional requirements, it should have a non-functional requirements. And then we'll do like a document walkthrough. Like, what is a walkthrough? Like, walkthrough is basically when you finish a house, you do a walkthrough, right? Once everything is done, the builder may actually schedule a walkthrough with you, so that you go and then okay, you said, okay, the kitchen has to be here, and you needed the stove to be here, you wanted the faucet to be here, all this living room to be here. So the builder would just, once he finishes developing everything, he will schedule a walkthrough for you to check whether he has delivered what was promised. A business requirement documentation walkthrough is very similar to that. What you do is, initially you will set up a call with all the project stakeholders, and you will gather requirements from them. Then once you gather the requirement, you document everything, right? Like in the scope, like a business requirement documentation is prepared. You write down the scope of what is going to be developed, what are the interface requirements, functional, non-functional requirements. Then you schedule a walkthrough with everybody and to say, okay, is this what you wanted? You just say, okay, this is the product. You just typically read out. So the project scope is blah, blah, blah. And, this is the functional, these are all the functional requirements. This is the data requirement. This is the non-functional requirements. This is how the data is going to be backed up. This is the performance, so on and so forth. And everyone in the call should agree that this is what they wanted. Only then this document is handed over to the technical team. The technical team will also be part of that document walkthrough. When I say technical team, not developers are going to be sitting there, right? Developers will have a lead. Developers will have work. All they do is just, write codes, right? You cannot waste their time as well. So you will have like an IT lead who will be there in that walkthrough meeting, and he will also understand the requirement when you're reading it through and ask questions. Because once you write down the requirement in plain business English, the project lead takes it to his team, and he will do typically a business requirement will be translated into a technical requirement documentation. That's not your job. Technical requirement documentation is something that the technical business analyst or the technical lead. Okay. And basically it's nothing but he would just write, okay, this is the architecture, this is how the data is going to flow, and this is basically, he may have information about how the metadata, or how, like, from a technical perspective, he will just translate the requirements into technical language and give it to his technical people, IT folks, so that they can basically program. Got it? And then you have the UI UI is nothing but user interface specification, how to write that, how to do a requirement breakdown. Sometimes the requirement could be really, really big, right? If it's like you're going to go in the beginning of a project, they may be, if say for example they want to develop like a product like Instagram or like Facebook or whatever, right? They all would have started with an idea, right? An idea and then a requirement, right? Requirement is, okay, I want a user to be able to, add and look at, go and look for friends or add friends, and you should be able to like log what are you doing currently. So those are basically very, very high level overall, like a bigger requirement, and those requirements are broken down into smaller pieces and they are documented basically. Okay, your job as a business analyst is going to be documentation and documentation only. And we'll go through that. Week 3, we will go through the quality assurance. Once the requirements are documented and the IT team develops, the technical team comes into the testing team comes into picture. Testers, so they go through a life cycle called software testing life cycle. As a BA, you would be reviewing the test scripts. You will be looking at the test scripts. Test scripts are nothing but steps to test a particular feature or a functionality. It will be developed based on the requirements that you wrote. Okay, so we will go through the what the quality assurance folks does, and you should be able to understand what they do so that you can get the work done from them. Okay, you would just talk about different types of testing, and then there are different methods of testing. This is very, very important for you to understand so that you can give suggestions on what level of testing is required. You can suggest, you are not going to decide, right? You as a business analyst can suggest, you know what, I think a black and white bug testing is required because this functionality is crucial for the business performance, or like it's crucial for user navigation, so on and so forth, right? So you should be able to understand different types of testing so that you can provide value in the conversation. Finally, it's basically the test lead or the business owner or the sponsor who are going to sign off and who are going to agree to um, uh, what level of testing and the scope of testing. All those things will be decided by them. Testing strategy is basically how they're going to test, uh, what they're going to test, how they're going to document it. Everything will be there in your project documentation. You will not be doing anything. You will just be a reviewer of those test cases. It will be developed by the testing team. What's a test case? What are the different formats and the design of it? Some examples of how we'll also look at how a test case is execution example we can see. And then when they execute, if they find a bug or a defect or an issue or an exception or whatever, right? Basically, it is not conforming with the requirement. We'll look at what they are, and then what is the life cycle for a bug. And then there are many like tracking tools for those bugs. We'll do a Jira demo slides, and then defect metrics and reporting. Then we'll look at the test plan documents and the test plan walkthrough. So BA toolkits, basically tools for small to medium-sized projects. What are the enterprise-wide, large-scale projects? We'll also look at the requirement management tools, and then we'll also give you some top BA resources and websites, right? The other thing that will also give us some of the examples, some of the important jargons that you need to learn in terms of what is a work breakdown structure, how to do these are all if you look at, these are project management activities. You are not a project manager, but then as I said, if you go to a small size project, you may have to act like a project manager. So it will be useful for you when you become this project manager for this for the small scale projects. If you go in, then you should be able to take advantage of what is taught in this class so that you can apply that knowledge, and you can say, okay, you know what, I worked as a project manager for smaller projects, and you should be able to run a project. And then the final week, we are going to go through, getting you ready for job, right? We'll go through the IIBA is an institute which kind of publishes, like, they have like a business analyst certifications, and they also have a book called BABOK, Business Analyst Book of Knowledge, that you can read, and they can become IABA, certified. ECBA is one of the certifications. You can prepare for an ECBA exam prep. Some certification levels also can be like, we can review that in the class. And then finally, we'll do like a resume prep, and we'll just give you some job search techniques and practical tips, and how you have to read through a job posting, and we'll give you some sample resumes for you to look at for reference. And and then we'll that's basically going to be the gist of that class. And then interview preparation guides, what type of questions. We'll give you some list of interview questions that are typically will be asked by the interviewers. This role is very generic, right? It's not specific to a tool, so it's not very hard, right? Out of the 50 questions that we give you, sure, if you have gone through everything and you have practiced, you would at least get like 5 to 6 questions from that for sure, from any of the interviewers. And you should be able to apply the knowledge from like what you're taught in the class, and you should be able to like crack the interviews. So we are going to give you the interview preparation guide, right? So this is basically what is going to be covered in this 4-week session. How, I mean, we're going to look at how many people are going to join and your preferable timing so that we can look at how we can, we can organize this 4-week of session. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Then I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you, everybody.